Welcome to the Healing Collective podcast, where we explore the paradox of healing.
And we broadcast all of the healing codes to support a world of more heart-centered humans.
Oh my gosh, your new space.
Mm-hmm.
How you feeling?
Well, in general, I'm good in the space, but basically we were at Taylon's baseball final game on the south side by our old house.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a cookout, people everywhere. We start getting these group texts and hearing tornado sirens, and they're and it looks nice. It looks fine outside. And everyone's like, there's a tornado. It'll be here in 15 minutes. You have to find shelter. My car was a 10-minute walk away.
Oh my goodness.
So we did leave in time. We went to our old apartment, which has no furniture or anything. While we're there, all the alarms are going off at this house saying that the glass is breaking and the back door is open. So they're like, the alarm company calls me should we send the police? I'm like, I guess so.
What?
Yeah.
So, but nobody was breaking in?
Well,
was it just the wind?
I have glass shatter things, and the back door, it's a glass door towards kind of the patio. And it wasn't very secure. So the wind blew it open. So it was banging back and forth and making the sound of glass shattering. And there was a bunch of water in the mudroom area.
Oh my goodness.
But luckily, it didn't, break or anything. So it was a wild, last couple hours.
So you're in a actual physical tornado. And I'm
over now, but I was yeah. And I'm in
an emotional tornado.
Right. I was thinking about you and these eclipse season and all this stuff. And I'm and I could, we found out today, Taylon's probably going to have to go to summer school because of his grades, which might mess with Hawaii.
Baseball.
It might mess with baseball.
Well, other Hawaii shit's falling apart at this moment too. Everything's,
so I'm just saying that basically, even when I was looking at the radar, it looked like an entity was coming across, and I was like, okay, well, I have $200 in my bank account, and I am at least a month behind on my bills. It's just things are a little nuts. Your turn.
If you need some help. Yeah, my turn is I'm not sure where to start, but I will say in this moment, everything's fine, but wow, some big stuff is happening. And I'm doing all my practices and getting my coaching and, getting SE. I'm back to weekly with Kathy. Right. There's a lot happening.
I also am on a weekly therapy thing right now.
Why wouldn't anyone be on weekly therapy? But, and I'm getting coaching from Deb, and no matter what's happening, I'm saying something and it's the same fucking coaching. She's always like, do you think maybe there's a feeling you're avoiding, Bethany? Is there maybe some hurt or some fear or some anger or some heartbreak? But what I am noticing, that the good part, and I will just get into some of the content, but the good part is I do feel so much steadier. All that's real still. And I still avoid feelings to some extent, but I have to say all the SE over the last few years, it's wow, a lot can happen. And I really can be grounded in my core, and it feels really, really different. And it's still chaotic. It still has my attention. I mean,
can I just add to that? I had the same experience today. It almost feels scary, cause I'm not getting hype, and stuff is normally things that are hype worthy.
Yeah.
Even when I got home, I just went into a meditation room and I just okay, I'm going to be with this. I'm going to be with this uncomfortable thing. I'm going to be with this uncomfortable thing. And the part of me that wants to be fuck God or fuck, it's I can't really get there. But at the same time, there's just this I don't control shit. I am not in control. Mm. But anyways, that nervous system feeling of that steady, feels true. And it doesn't mean that it doesn't still hurt or it isn't still uncomfortable. It's just there's something that I am holding myself a little bit more than I was.
Yeah. Well, to somatic experiencing clients, how I describe this, like what I say, one of the benefits or the goals of doing the work is that it's like if you have picture like a very narrow river. If there's like big waves, pretty easy, those waves are going to splash out onto the sides. Like if there's a storm or something happens, or there's wind, or something slashes around, like the water is going to flip outside the banks of the river pretty easy if it's very narrow. And that would be like our nervous system getting over our capacity, getting into overwhelm, one way or the other. And with SC, it's like you broaden out the river so it becomes this really much, much wider river. And in that case, like really big waves could happen and it doesn't overflow. Like it's just, there's so much more capacity in the system. That is what it feels like to have it. It's not like there's no wave. There's a wave. There's some feeling. There's something like I'm processing, but it just feels like the system's so much bigger and broader than it used to be. It just feels like the capacity is so much higher. Even when I'm doing SC with Kathy, it's like waves come, they just touch in, these little light touches in. And that was something that came up today in therapy. The stuff that's happening, part of me is so annoyed because it's like, it is the same stuff. Like it's the same stuff over and over again.
Yeah.
And like, whatever's going on, I'm dating this guy and she's like, talking about my dad. And she's like, yeah, it's like, you didn't really get like this special attention from your dad. I'm sorry about that. And I'm like, fuck. And I was kind of quiet. She's like, what's going on in there? And I was like, I'm just so fucking tired of this. Like, I've processed this shit. Why is this here again? Like, I thought I was just creating something new. I thought this wasn't like all the other things that I just created. What the fuck? I'm like, I'm paying you. And every week you're like, does this remind you of your dad? And I'm like, fuck, I didn't see it again. And she told me a personal story of like, she's 69 years old and she's still touching on the same things. It's just like, and it's like, it's totally different for her, but it's just like, and I was like, had a moment where I'm like, am I not even getting anywhere with this? And she was just like, no, this is just the human experience and you're living it with more support and more tools than ever. And now you're enabling other people to live the human experience in that way too. She's like, but it's still a human experience. And it reminds me of what we say at CLG. I'm just like, yeah, we're going to get reactive. We're relational. We're going to get reactive. It's just what's going to happen. And here's a set of tools for what to do when that happens, and stopping trying to be like, oh, I'm not going to get reactive anymore. You are. Newsflash, you are. But it can be a lot friendlier and with a lot more awareness.
I do think, if I'm really real with myself, like part of this kind of, I don't know, obsession would be too strong, but deep commitment to like the next thing and the next thing and the next thing is like holding on to this hope that like some of these really particular difficult things don't repeat. And so, yeah, like I'm having a similar experience of some things repeating. And, when you talk about her being 69 and I'm just like I can really do something with that. Like what? Like, it's not, you know what I mean? Like,
well, she also just talked about like, she has this pattern of like the type of men that she was involved with when she was in her 20s and 30s. Like she typically doesn't talk to me about any of this, but she did today because I was where I was. And she was like, well, hey, listen. But she told me about it and she would get in these big relationships and there's these themes, right? She was like up on the North Shore over the weekend, walking in a parking lot. Like she got an ice cream cone. She was walking to her car. And this guy pulls over from the street into the parking lot to like talk to her and like waved her down and like parked and walked over and like approached her. It's the same type of person. She's like, it's just in us. It's our vibration. Like there is something that pulls us towards each other. It's not about like avoiding that thing. It's just, we're just still learning about that thing. And it's just part of our human experience to have that and to pull that in. So like, that's one of the things she talks about. Like, I've just attracted somebody who there are some similar themes in some of my other relationships. And she's just like, that's not because there's something wrong with you or wrong with him or wrong with the world or wrong with relationships or wrong with healing. She's like, this is just your life and this life, this path. This is what you're learning about. And it's okay.
I wonder what I've done that I don't attract anything at all. Like, what does that mean? There's like nothing.
I don't know that that's true.
It's true. It's 100% true.
That guy who was fixing your bathroom wanted to go with you. We're like, no, thanks.
Okay, that was like 9-10 months ago, and
I think so.
you're like pulling for straws.
No.
Like you literally have a different person you're dealing with every month. Like it's like
no, that's not. That's also an exaggeration.
anyway.
But I
Okay,
will.
so
speak
what's
on
going
it.
on with you? Yeah.
Okay. Well, I want to be sensitive to the people in my life because some of this is their story. But basically, there are people very close to me who have addiction, and I was asleep on this, and it's coming up. It's just like it's 2002. It's not 2022. I keep saying this over and over again, but like multiple people very close to me, this addiction stuff is just very here. It's like a strong theme of the people in my life who are very close to me physically and emotionally. And that's kind of, it's like I said, I feel like I have way more capacity for it, and I have more agency. I'm making different choices, and it's just pretty big and heavy. And it is this like long-term theme in my life. So I've been looking at my own stuff. I've been doing my own work around my own addiction work, addiction to my phone. I stopped using substances like for a while. I'm just taking a look at that and noticing like, oh, I kind of want to have a drink. I haven't had a drink in a week, and I kind of want a glass of wine right now. Like just taking stock of my own stuff and doing my own context work. And it's just, it's pretty heavy. It's very here. And that's just running in the background while I'm putting out fires at work. And then the main thing that was all over the place. Lauren texted me, we just text each other, checking in. We just give like a mini report. She wrote checking in, and I'm like roller coaster. And what's been happening is, so I am a Scorpio rising. So all these eclipses are in my first house and my seventh house, primary relationships. All the Scorpio risings, Lauren knows, are getting in relationships. That's absolutely true. I have my people I've been involved with that I'm kind of like, have these long-term amorphous things where I have like strong feelings, but it wasn't really happening. And I got back onto the apps to like, I don't know, spread out my energy a little bit and just like put my energy into some other things, like acknowledging and facing what is not happening. So I didn't expect at all, even though the astrologer said so, I did not think that I was going to fall into something that was like pretty substantial. And that is what happened. And there's a lot of really different stuff about this person. We talked about it a little bit on the last podcast, but I asked permission. He does not listen to this podcast, not yet anyways. But I asked if he'd mind me talking about him. He said that it was fine. His name's Arya, and he doesn't live around here, even though I thought that he did. He has a travel job. So he was local to me for like 6 months when we first started talking, but now he's not around. So it's like long distance. But here's what's happening. He's like the most emotionally available at first, like just so super emotive. Like when we met, we talked for a few weeks. It was really fun and cute. We had a Zoom date. I was like, wow, I have like a lot of sexual energy. I have a lot of attraction. I was kind of surprised at how much I was digging it. And he's like, what are you doing Saturday? And I was like, oh, I don't know. He's like, I want to take you out. And I'm like, okay, great. Like, yeah. But I was like, wait a minute. You're not around here anymore. And he's like, no, I'm going to fly there. I'm going to fly there to take you on a date. And I was like, oh, well, what's that mean? Like, I don't know that I'd be comfortable with you staying here. And he's like, yeah, I'll go to a hotel. And I'm like, this is what the fuck I'm talking about. This is how the fuck people should be showing up to go on dates with me. At least there's a part of me who's been wanting to have that voice and have it be more strong, more of that queen energy. Like, I feel very seen by this person. I feel like he sees my value and he speaks it out and affirms it, and he's available and he checks in all the time and he calls me all the time and he FaceTimes me a lot, and he like has like nervous system statements that he's making about his intentions for me. And I'm like, whoa. And it's been lovely. And I've been like, holy moly. And we've been spending a lot of time and flying back and forth and seeing each other and stuff. And then there's like a pullback. And I'm like, oh. And I start explaining all of it. Like, I'm talking to my therapist about it. And she's like, this sounds kind of like who we call co-pilot. She's like, it kind of sounds a little bit like I'm like, I know, I already talked to him about it. He said it's like him. I'm doing it again. I know. I know. Basically, I was supposed to go down there this week for work to where he lives. Work was bringing me there. And he invited me and I was going to stay with him and we were going to try to spend time together while I worked. And then he basically disinvited me. He pulled back a little bit on Sunday and I had a pit in my stomach yesterday, Lauren. This is like one of these things where I can feel something's off and I don't know what's off. And I gaslight myself. And I've felt that with some other really big things in my life, but I couldn't sleep last night. And I checked in with him and I was like, feels like something's off. What's going on? Something feels weird. And he's like, nothing. By the time we talked this morning, I didn't even get a lot of sleep last night. I sat and did a long meditation sit. I cleaned out all these drawers. I did a workout. I was doing all kinds of shit. But he has a little bit of a pullback happening. And he's like, well, I have I have some stuff going on this week and I'm going to a graduation party. I'm going to the movies. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Am I the love of your life or do you want to go see Top Gun? What are you saying? There's a mismatch. I don't know what you're saying anymore. And I don't know, we processed it and talked it through. And the roller coaster is, I'm like, everything's amazing. Something is off. Let's talk about what's off. And then he's usually pretty available and vulnerable when something feels a little weird. I've brought things to his attention before. He's held great space. It seems like he doesn't really want to feel his feelings. And I think all the closeness, I don't think he's gotten this close this fast with somebody. And I think he's overwhelming himself. And, Kathy had his number pretty quick and talked about attachment and childhood stuff and a little bit of his background. And she's like, oh yeah, he's overwhelmed and his nervous system can handle this. And so it makes a lot of sense that he's kind of tapped out and he needs to not be close because all this closeness is a little different than what he's used to. He's probably a type 7. And, I was kind of mentally prepared after being with my therapist to be okay, this might not be it. Maybe this came in real hot and has been real sweet. And maybe if I just really am listening and not pretending I don't know what I know, maybe this isn't it, and I mentally prepared. I felt okay if this might not be it. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. And I got on video chat with him and told him all the things I saw. I didn't blame him. I'd done my little context work. I was just this is what it seems like. And that's not it to me. This isn't what I want. And he was super available and was pretty much yeah, I'm on my edge and nobody else in my life sees all my strategies. I'm great at running away and nobody ever gives me a hard time about that. I've been running away my whole life. I'm amazing at it. And he's like, I can tell you're not going to let me get away with that. And he's like, I both really want it and it's terrifying. And seemed to basically be pretty available to look at this stuff. And I don't want to recreate stuff I've created in other relationships where I'm teaching them everything about, he's really interested in the consciousness stuff. And I do want to show him all of that, but I don't want to be the teacher and the coach. I don't want the polarity off. And so I don't know. From here, he's just I'm crazy about you. And he freaked out and I'm disinvited from coming and staying with him this week. So we're in a little bit of that precipice of okay, are you going to figure it out and get committed and, do your work or are you not? And I kind of put that all out on the table earlier today and he responded pretty well. Some of his high sides and his higher qualities are that he is devoted to play and joking and lightness. And when I'm real serious and intense and taking myself real seriously, he's pretty excellent at shaking that up. And the shadow of that is all the mucky stuff and the harder stuff. He's oh boy, he doesn't like it, or at least he doesn't want to be seen in it, And I'm well, it's kind of my specialty, bud. If you're looking to work on that. So it is, in some ways, it's way more similar than I thought to other relationships I've been in. And knowing what I know and being what my profession is and being all the stuff that I'm super into, whoever I'm meeting, I'm probably going to be, teaching them to some extent about some of this stuff. I can recognize that. yeah, it's been up and down. Like I went through like, oh my gosh, this is the most amazing thing ever too. I think he's gonna break up with me. Oh no, I think I'm gonna break up with him. Oh wait, no, I think everything's fine. Okay, we're recommitting all in like a day or so. And so I don't know. It's been a short eclipse season, so it could have been gone just as fast as it came in. But for right now, we're staying staying on track. And I don't know, got kind of recommitted about stretching ourselves on these things a little bit. What do you notice when you hear all that?
I know that I'm listening with a lot of humility because it's like I'm not in that type of relationship or have that kind of, it's not like I can be like, I'm successful at something like that.
I don't like that disclaimer. I think you know so much about.
True. I mean, that feels true. Like there's just humility, like, there's not righteousness is not here.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing that it feels really true to me is just like love and commitment and intimacy build over time. And anyone who thinks that they're in love with someone or they're the love of their life when they first meet them, yeah, there's a potential for that. But like, I guess like I'm thinking about my relationship with Taylor's dad, for example, and all we've been through in 16 years. And I didn't even know him. Like looking back when we had a baby, I didn't even know you, And so for me, it's like, and then even to be like, we're committed, like commitment grows over time. Like my commitment to you is so different now than it was 3 years ago. My commitment to, and like I have to keep checking in or keep moving in our relationship and it's kind of organic. I'm not spending a lot of energy like waiting. It's not like every 6 months I'm like, okay, where's my commitment to Bethany? Like it's not like God. That. But it is like when I scan my life and I'm like, I have limited energy to give to people. Is this person that I want to give a good amount to still? Yes. And that's a very small amount of people. And, like what I also know is because as a collective relationality is our biggest edge, period. Like it's just, we've underdeveloped in that area as a result of industrialization and all types of other reasons.
And trauma.
There's people like whoever we start relationships with, there's going to be really, really hard, deep stuff to face. And the thing, I guess, that scares me around this, and I'm not like super scared, but it's just like, I don't think you have enough information to know if he's the person you want to commit to going through the dark and heavy stuff. And I think that sometimes you tell yourself that you're good at the dark and heavy, but I don't think that you're really doing the dark and heavy in intimacy. I think that you find people that you can walk them through the dark and heavy so you don't have to really go through your own dark and heavy, And yeah, and like 6 months from now, or a year from now, if you're like, this is the person that I want to unravel my life with, I would be like, got it, but like right now, like, it's just, and just from basic of like reality, like we just don't know people that well, that soon. We can feel that cosmic possibility, right? But then it's like our wisdom and our discernment and all of these other things that says like, but when shit gets hard, like, is this the person I want to keep showing up for the hard shit? And the last thing I'll say is I will never forget this. I was in an Uber And this Uber driver is like, I think that you should get married after 10 years of being with someone. Like, I think it should be a celebration
of like being with someone for a decade.
Yeah. And like what you've been through and like, you know what I mean? And that really resonated with me. Like, so yeah, like over here, it's just like the fact that he was so willing to jump like that, it still could be him. Like you could still decide you want to go along with him in the long run, who knows? But I'm just saying to me, it shows his level of maturity and his level of personal awareness, because like, I'm like him. I'm the kind of person that does that. I've done it. I have literally met a guy and flown to the Bahamas for my first date and paid for it myself. Like I have all the stories of that. The Lauryn now, even if I felt that, I would know like that, Lauryn, that's not wise. Like that's not a wise decision. And what you're feeling, you really need to sit with, and you really need to be with, and you really need to watch. And you slowly and steadily let someone into your nervous system. You know? Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting because in some ways he's been all in fast, and in other ways he's been pretty boundaried, and like that's edgy for me, because when someone comes towards, I'm like, great, all the way, you know, the intensity just ratchets up real fast, and I'm like, let's go all the way. And he hasn't quite in certain ways, like, and that's been pretty edgy for me and I can really see the high side of some of the slowness on like his stuff, on his like, you know, the stuff that's challenging for him, or some of the stuff in his past or whatever. Or even just doing what I want. It's just like, no, I'm not doing that. And the first thing is I get frustrated. And the second thing is I'm like, if I can trust him to not do what he doesn't want to do. Now there was like a little blip around that this weekend, which is why I got all wobbly, because I was actually starting to really trust that he's going to do what he says he's going to do, and he's not going to do anything he doesn't want to do. And then that got a little out of whack. But you're saying, what am I putting out there? That I create nothing, and a belief system that like, even if you feel something for someone or are drawn to somebody, that you got to sit with it and not do anything. And you can't even really even pretend to be all in on somebody or to commit to somebody after such a long period of time. That would be one way to not move on stuff and to not move into experiences. If the belief system is like, no fucking way, not even close. And also, I think there's something like, I can totally see the truth of what you're saying. I could hear all your feedback. Like, yeah, maybe I have extra focus on other people's stuff and I don't focus on mine. On the other hand, I could see myself really digging into my stuff and doing my work on stuff too. But there is something, I do feel more available to try things, I think.
Well, that was how I learned. That I was thinking, like, yeah, the other thing is like, yeah, the other side of it. And this is actually, I wonder if I'm answering my own question. Like, I just really believe that I worked through so many different things, like that I feel like I really know what I want to experience and what I don't. And I don't need to keep throwing myself into different things, I guess you would say, you know what I mean? But I can see how like
I think I'm just so experiential.
Like where you are. Yeah. Well, I think where you are in your journey around commitment and your journey around deconstructing your relationship to your own family. And, you know, it makes sense to me that you haven't clarified for yourself, like what 100% what you need and want to experience around that. I mean, it's only been recently that I've even heard you be like, I think I do really want this type of, right. And experience.
Like for a minute, I was like, I think I might be all set, which was so weird. I mean, I've been such a relationship focused person my whole life. And when I met this guy, I said that I was like, I don't really 100% know what I'm available for. Like, I'm kind of walking on new feet here. I've learned a lot of stuff. I've unwound a lot of stuff and I've healed some things. And I don't I'm not really that clear.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I think what you're saying is true. And I think I'm not as quick to sort of restrict like pleasure or experiences or things that feel good. I think I'm pretty interested in like going towards things that feel good. And I can see what you're saying. Like, I know, like, coming from love and sex addiction work, and also just every single human being is motivated on some level by pleasure. And if that's the highest good and that's your highest thing, that's not good. Like, I don't think that's going to be healthy. I could see both. And there's just something so healing about, I'm like, okay, I didn't have high self-esteem. I created partners that didn't really say very nice things to me. And that's been shifting over time. And I've been saying nicer things to me. And now I'm seeing it reflected in partners. And I do think that there's some important progress there for me. And it's just the same way that like Jim and Diana and people and coaches reflecting to us what they see in us, and how literally healing that is. Having someone I'm dating reflect these things to me, it feels really important for me to experience and not run away from it. I always think I'm, more hopeful and open than discerning. Like, on that polarity, I know that the discerning still wants to come up more, and the slowness wants to come up more. And I think I'm happy that I'm open to experience things and try things and see what happens. And I like to think that I'm clear enough and communicate enough and friendly enough to like make that friendly for other people too, and myself as much as possible, even if we don't like get married in 10 years as a celebration, even if we have an experience for a year or so or something like that, that's cool or great or hard, or we learn or whatever it is.
I think that's just that's definitely something I see in Scorpio risings, or I would say as a pattern of just like, I'm willing to just keep riding this roller coaster. I mean, when I look at my own journey, basically I just, I don't know. I just have no idea what really my journey is taking me at. I wouldn't like recommend it really, actually, but, I really haven't had like there, I guess the one thing I will say, there was a point where there was just always people showing up. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, it really was a thing where I had to keep being like, I would go in the apps, or, you know what I mean? But it just seemed like there was just always like a rotation, and I will say that is, I think there's like really one, maybe two people in the last 7 years when I was going through everything I was going through with Hammond that showed up, and I was kind of like a no, even with the stuff I was going on with Hammond, it was like, I'd rather actually be all in or pay attention to this than do that thing, or I could kind of see that path. And I remember getting a tarot reading and her saying like that there was, going to be an option or whatever. And something kind of showed up, but I was just like not into it, So I guess I would say like, if something really came up, I would think
you'd be available.
I'd wanted like, if I had that pull, I feel like that is the same as me. Like, if I have a pull to someone, I'm not going to ignore that. Even I'm going to put all the risks out there. I'm going to, you know what I mean? But I think that there is something that I can't put into words, and it's a to be continued for my story, because who knows? But, when I didn't date for all that time and I was feeling into who I was attracted to, but I had a commitment to my sponsor to not date. I started noticing like all these different energies of attraction and how often I would feel them and all those things. And this resonant vibration that I experienced with Heyman to me was like something I'd never experienced before and I haven't experienced since.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt like something that was like, okay, I've felt all these different vibrational attractions.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've had the, like in your world, it would be like, you've had all these, you know, these people we've talked about. And like, you're like, okay, so if you met somebody like one of those previous people and it felt the same, you'd be like, oh, I've done that. Right.
Yeah.
So anyways, I am really curious, like what that looks like moving forward. And I wonder if I have a lot of criticism sometimes around these like trauma bond conversations, but I know there is some validity to them. And it's like, well, maybe it's a trauma bond energy that I felt and it was like a super strong one. Like maybe that's all it was. Maybe the trauma bond isn't there anymore. So maybe it'll just be something like a little bit more organic. Like, I don't know, but yeah, I just want to say that like, I think there is definitely one in me that has kind of been like, why hasn't there been other options? Like this other person has in my life, he's had a million options in 7 years. Like, why haven't I? And what is that about?
Well, I wonder, because like him running into other options, that has not been your fave, that hasn't been friendly to you. And then, even when I meet somebody, go for something, date somebody, like, it sounds like there's some aversion in you too around just like even how serious, like we've talked about before, I think on like the George episode or something, talking about like sex and like the seriousness of like certain types of connection, whereas like that's not how it lives in me. So I just wonder, like, whatever that part of me is that you're like maybe that's a bit X'd out, the more like exploratory.
Yeah.
Like,
I know that's a possibility for sure. I know that.
And I don't think that your connection with Heyman and even the journey you're on with him, that is destiny. That is in the stars. That is real. And it doesn't go away. Like your connection to him, like your reflections of each other, like you guys have these things, like you signed up for something with this person. And that doesn't go away if you open yourself to somebody else. You know what I mean? In fact, I think these like periods of like separation, perceived separation, so are just really for us sometimes. Like there's probably other lessons you're here to learn too. And I think maybe the reason I'm available to date people is because I simply see it that way. I'm like, holy moly, I want to learn about lightness and play. I want to learn about boundaries. He has some elements of the divine masculine that I'm like, okay, like there is some stuff in there that I'm like, oh wow, that wants to come up in me. And he's got his stuff he wants to learn about me from. And so I just feel really a lot more comfortable with doing that, it sounds like. And, I think there's probably a high side to it, which is like a general availability to co-create new stuff that falls in that more romantic sexual category. And the low side is, I think, what you're pointing at, which is like, do I have the reverence? Are people getting hurt? Am I hurting myself somehow? Like, is there a lack of wisdom or discernment somehow? I think those are all really fair explorations. And report, if I get the surveys out, the people that I've been in relationship with, especially since I've been doing so much more personal work, people are like, that was good. Thank you. I'm so happy that we had our time for what it was, and it's changed now, and fucking thank you. Things like I learned so much, and I'm grateful for this relationship. And that's how I have felt as well. And I still have like good relationships with these people. So maybe there's a path where that, where that can still be true. And I think you learned a lot about the other side of it, and it makes a lot of sense that it'd be like real careful and slow and a lot of discernment about where you go with that. Um, I want someone to worship you. I want someone telling you, like, I want a man with like really strong divine masculine energy, seeing you how I see you and reporting on that to you every day. It's a thing. It's like quite an experience to have that. And I have to say, like, it's not just like you're hot, you're cute. I'm like someone seeing you, even though they don't know you very well, seeing your essence qualities and like honoring them. It's like, wow. I mean, if we're here to have an experience, that's one of the ones I want. And I wasn't co-creating that very much. It's been edging up, and this is pretty nice. It's like all kind of little young parts of me that are settling down. And there's still things that are happening, and I'm watching it all, and I'm wanting to make sure that I'm in clear agreements with people and that I express my needs and wants and that I'm not trying to manipulate and control, and that if me expressing my want and what's good for me means that it's not a good match, blessings on your way. Like that's okay too. But yeah, it's pretty nice to get loved on for part of who for your essence.
Yeah, I think I just noticed that like I know this is an edge for me in certain ways, and like I just know I want like old love. Like
Mm-hmm.
like I want to be seen because you saw me over 10 years. Like if a guy saw my essence right now, like I would appreciate it, but it wouldn't, I don't think it would be satisfying to me, because it's like you don't know me. You don't know you haven't seen all of me, you know? Like I think that, and I don't know that I don't know. I just feel that in my body, like that old love, like that deep
like
knowing,
been through some shit love.
the knowing, yeah, like
I long for that too.
and
I'm okay to build it
right
though.
now I am literally dancing with like, what is the experience of the masculine that I want to have right now? And if I'm being with my innocence and reparenting my nervous system, because I'm having experiences of myself like feeling really young, and I'm like, okay, what did she need when she was 2 and 4 and 6 and 8, around like the masculine and the relationship to the masculine? What did she need that she didn't get, and like someone was sexual with me when I was 3 years old, when I was 4 years old. Like I didn't get to not be that.
Right. Yeah, it's a totally different experience.
Like like there's a relationship to the masculine that has always been consumptive.
Right.
And not like, yeah, like right now what I want is just to like have men that I come in contact with like respect me and think I'm like smart and like be kind, and maybe like I don't know, like I don't want to feel anything that like you want to take anything, or that I have to give you anything, that, and like, so sex, like I don't think I'll have sex for a long time. And like, that's okay with me, because yeah,
that's what feels
it's
aligned.
just like
It's
what innocence is. And I guess that's when I'm like, and that is different for everyone, and different for different like contexts. And like for me, freedom to be sexual, or it would be like if my innocence was really safe, you know. That is actually would be more of a new experience than like fucking a bunch of different people, or trying, you know,
of course.
having a threesome, or, you know, like I just like, it just isn't appeal to me. And it does sometimes, I feel wrong about it. I do look at people like you and people who are like so much more like kind of laissez-faire about that, or, you know, I did like the pussy thing, like the Mama Gina thing, and they're like wearing lingerie and like, you know, it's all about like being so sexy and everything. And there's just something that it just doesn't appeal to me. The thing that's been coming up for me recently is like an orchid is so beautiful, and I make up that it just gets to be beautiful. And you can just observe it and observe its beauty, and just as it is, like it's not, you know. And like there's like an experience like that where I just like, I want to be beautiful in the world and just be like observed as a beautiful soul, as a beautiful person. And I think that I see myself that way. So yeah, I don't know. Like it makes sense to me given my journey that like it would definitely be an edge if someone showed up. And I'm not against that experience, but it just, you know, this new house is named the Fortress. You know, it just, I like it when I walked into the bedroom when we were doing the blessing ceremony, I just sobbed, and I went in by myself. My sister was like, I don't think anyone else should go in your bedroom. And it was like my womb space, you know. It felt like
smart.
Yeah. It felt like my womb space, and it felt like it was mine again, you know?
Yeah, especially since age 3, you didn't have it. You didn't have a fortress. You didn't have a safe space associated with sleep and innocence that was maintained. I had that.
Right.
So you make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. But there is like a scary, like I'll go to this place of like, well, I turned 40 this year. Like if I don't have sex for like, you know, if, you know, I like get in this like timeline thing.
Like a scarcity thing?
Yeah, just like, because I do hope that I have a significant relationship, you know, and I think that I can see also the part of me that my standards are so high for like the level of like alignment and whatever, that I feel like I would need to take those level of risks again or do anything like that, you know. But I mean, at the end of the day, I learned the last few years have taught me that the universe does not give a fuck about my plans.
Well, that's another thing. It's like I could have all my stories about being single and relationships, you know, all the whatever the things are, and you know, these people in my life, but you know, it's eclipse season in Taurus, and so I have a new boyfriend. Like probably no matter what I was up to, that was what was going to happen right now. And so I'll be along on that ride.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Like the astrology piece really fucks with me. Like, I mean, do you really have choice? Like, like it's so predictable, you know. And I was looking at my chart, like, okay, so when is, you know, because I'm kind of on the opposite side. So it's like when the relationship's coming back around for me, you know? How long has it been since I've had things in that area?
I know. Well, let's see, it's like a 1.5 year long eclipse season, and it goes to 2 houses at once. So I think the whole thing takes
Well, Taurus is November. The Taurus one, the last one's in November. The Scorpio one started later, so it ends later, right?
Well, it's that axis, so it's that north and south node communicating. So there'll be half moons and full moons. So it's my first and seventh house axis is for a year and a half, and that goes around. So it's like takes halfway around the wheel. So it's like 6 cycles of a year and a half. What's that? That's how long it takes to go around. So
that's a long time.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean that new things don't happen. There's all kinds of other transits, but I remember my first reading with Drew. He was like, spring 2022 is cute for guys, for money. First reading, he was like, spring 2022. Spring 2022. That's going to be real cute. He was just like, oh, all the transits, all the things. Wow, this is going to be cute for you. And I've been 2 years later. I'm like, oh, okay, spring 2022. The money's here.
Yeah.
The relationship's here. And I'm like, okay, we'll see where this goes. But I do, I was re-listening recently. I want to challenge something you said. And I want to tell you, I can see the truth of what you're saying. And this idea of, I was re-listening to the episode where we had Reese on. And we were talking about feedback. And you're like, sometimes people can know a lot about you that you don't even know about yourself right when they meet you. And he was like, no. And we were like, yes. And then we're talking about, like, think about you coaching somebody and what you can see and how fast you can see it. And so there's someone in me, like I was in a relationship after college for 4 years or something, before I knew you. His name was Nate. I swear to God, he knew me in high school, and like he knew me since I was 13. And there was something that was just like, you have known me in so many phases of my life. I've changed so radically over 10 years, and you've known all these versions of me that felt that longing for what you're talking about, someone knowing you over time. I think that's a specific flavor of knowing, and I get it. Like, and it's one of the reasons I felt heartbroken when my dad died, because I'm like, whoever I partner with, like if it's some new person, they're never going to know me as a daughter to my dad. Like there was something about this longevity and people knowing me my whole life. I can see how I attach to that with other people in my life. You know what I mean? Like just the longevity of that. Like you have known all these iterations of me. That is very powerful. And if you spend a lot of time with someone who's awake and aware and paying attention, and you're available to be seen, and you know yourself, I do think you can be seen pretty quickly. I think that you can make your essence known. And I think that there is also a way that, you can be known. I think both are true. And I think there's a lot of stuff you learn over time, and your stuff's going to come up, especially in a primary relationship like this. Like stuff's going to come up. There's going to be all kind of bumps. You're going to learn more about yourself and more about them and more about, each of you in relationship with each other. Yes, there is something to be said for time. Absolutely. And I do feel genuinely seen by this person in a way that I haven't before.
Yeah, I wonder, like sometimes there's this undercurrent that I feel that I just want to speak to, that it's like, I don't know, like you don't have to prove it to me. Like I feel like that sometimes it's like it's like you'll take the feedback and you'll turn it in a way that you're like, let me prove to you what I'm experiencing, or let me, let me show I'm taking the feedback. But really it's like, you can have your experience and like
not defend or explain.
Like you don't have to like turn around what I'm experiencing to make your experience more.
It feels like I'm invalidating your experience.
Reliable, not invalidating. I don't feel invalidated. It just feels like I think it's something we both do back and forth. It's like there's an undercurrent of like competing for like who is seeing it more clearly or something, or like take the feedback and like here's how the feedback. Like I don't. I trust that you're having exactly the experience that you're supposed to have.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no other experience that you should be having, or, you are having the experience that you're going to have and what you're going to learn. And
I think it's are the ways we're the similar and the ways we're different are our blind spots in each other. And it's one of the ways that we're learning from each other is our differences, because there's a lot of similarities on like overall path and life story. And then I think we just have different ways of like being seen in each other's blind spots of like all the stuff that wants to get grown up and get learned about.
yeah,
I think we're just articulating them. It feels different to you. It feels like defending.
I just didn't feel like I completed what I was, like, I don't know. It's just like I wonder if it could be true, because this is coming up. Like, I've actually had a couple people lately be like, I just want you to have a guy that does this to you and whatever. It's like, I think there's just one of me that's like, can I just not want what you want?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And can it not be like, I'm not saying something, or I'm missing, or you know what I mean? Or like, I'm not as open to pleasure, or whatever it is. Can it just be that, like, in the lifeline of Lauryn and whatever is her unique journey, that like, and like, can Bethany just have her experience, and like, can it just be, for the awareness, for whatever awareness is wanting at the time, and I feel like, I guess it's like, I feel like if you 100% trusted what you're experiencing, you wouldn't feel the need to like say how much you're learning all the time, or everything that's pointing you in the right direction. I feel like sometimes you overdo that to trust yourself and trust what you're experiencing. And then I feel like you're like convincing me, because it's like, if you can convince me, then you can trust yourself more. So I'm like, there's just a part of me that's like, trust what you're experiencing. Like, just trust it. Like,
but also when I told you about it, like the first thing you said was just like, you can't know that. You can't know somebody. Like, you came kind of hard, like you came in with some tight feedback pretty quick. So I can see how.
Are you talking about today or?
Yeah, earlier? Literally today, like on this podcast, like at the beginning of it. I was like, how does that all land for you? What do you notice when you hear all that? And it was so, yeah, I can see that maybe I'm not, it's same. It's probably same. Like, well, what if I do feel seen? What if I just
right,
feel
that's what
connected?
I'm saying. That's where I think I landed, is like, in my world, in Lauryn's world, and based, like, if you had lived Lauryn's life, at this point, you would probably not have been as turned on by the fact that he flew out to see you.
Yeah.
But you're not living Lauryn's life. You're living Bethany's life. And for whatever you needed and what you needed to experience, that's what life provided for you. So yeah, like, I guess I just want to say that, like, I'm not trying to say that I doubt what you're experiencing around that. I'm saying that that same experience in my reality would create an entirely different response.
Okay, that makes sense. But I wonder how we're co-creating, defending, explaining to each other, or not.
Well, that's what I was saying when I was observing it. I'm like, this is familiar. There's an undercurrent of energy under it that I'm trying to use words, and words are not great for energy.
Yeah.
But there's definitely just like, I think, I mean, we've had a relationship around feedback and seeing, you know, blind spots, like that's been the relationship. And so it makes sense. But I think maybe it's like, I'm working on wanting for other people what they want for themselves.
Well, I'm definitely not out here just like, I totally trust myself. I don't, I totally see what I'm up to. No, like definitely not. And I do check in with people. I check in with Copilot, I check in with my therapist, I check in with you. Those are 3 people that I'm like really highly trust to like see me and reflect back to me. And I'm guessing it probably sounds like, is this okay? Is what I'm doing okay? And me explaining it. I think also like my anxious attachment style, which I think you have the same. Part of how I process things is by talking them through and like hearing things reflected back to me. So I do think it's actually just a part of my process to like run it through the mill, and you're one of the mills, whether you chose that or not. I do that. I would like to think that I'm developing more trust in myself over time. I don't think I'm in a place where I'm like, yeah, I totally trust myself and know what I'm doing. I don't need to defend or explain to anybody, especially not someone who knows me and sees me the way you know and see.
Well, that's what I think I'm seeing a transition is. Before you would like take all the feedback almost like really too much, right? Now it's like I can feel you wanting to be open to the feedback, but wanting to trust yourself first. And then there's like another layer of then sending the feedback back in a way that's like, let me show you how, you know what I mean? I don't know. There's like a throwing it back, and that's the part that feels like, and it's like, it doesn't even feel bad or anything, but it's just, there's just a part of me that's like, you don't need to do that with me. I guess that's what's coming up. Like, you don't need to do that with me. Like, if you need to trust yourself and trust what you're experiencing, and that's just what you need right now, then just do that. And maybe don't even ask for feedback right now. Maybe just feel it. Maybe just actually because to your point around experience, like, from a lot of angles, I could 100% say that I just spent 7 years in the same exact relationship that I had already been in for the previous 14.
Right.
Like, there's a lot of ways that we could look at that being like, okay, dumbass.
Well, no, I wouldn't call it.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, you did it again. Or it's like, so that's just one angle of it. You know what I'm saying? But like the experience and the awareness and the amount of awakeness that I experienced, there are some things that I will never do again. Or I will, there's a different level of like knowing that I had to get with, and that I had to, and like, I think because my sponsor, my feedback was not to get in this relationship from most people that I trusted.
Right.
And I needed to go through with my own nervous system.
Yeah.
And feel through it. And know that every decision I made, whether it was a failure or success, painful or good, that I made that decision. And then I couldn't say that's what somebody told me to do, or that's what I thought was the right thing. But it's like, no, I felt my way through this. And it was, messy. It was super messy and also beautiful and also horrible. And, it's just like all the things that it was. And so I just wonder if like this, you keep saying, I learn from experience. And it's like Copilot's always going to see what Copilot sees, and Lauren's going to see what Lauren sees. And, to me, like, I guess what I want for you is to have such a felt knowing in your body of what is safe or what is right or what is good for you, that it wouldn't, you know what I mean? Like that at the end of the day, like that's your true north. And And I guess that's really what I want for both of us. Like, I want for both of us to be like, so have brought our body and our mind and spirit so much into like an aligned place that we're like, if we have a instinct, like your stomach situation, I know what that means. I know what my body's telling me. I've done this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I could feel it coming more online, and you have stood for that in me so consistently. I think what I'm appreciating right now is like in this season too, we've not had as many guests, and it's been me and you more.
I had no guests.
We had Finley and we have Greg.
That feels like 5 years.
It was really long ago. We have to get these episodes out, but we are getting into it more. Like our conflict that happens, and I feel like people have been able to watch two people who are committed to staying connected to each other and to noticing reactivity when it happens and pausing and thinking about it and shifting out of it and explaining from there and reconnect. Like that's all I want in this life, is someone that I can spar with. And even if I say something, you're not just going to skip over it. You're going to let me know my impact on you. You're going to give me feedback. You're going to tell me when you feel something. When you feel the energy of something, you're going to watch yourself and notice, oh, I can feel this and I can feel this. And let me open on this, and shifting out. Like that's just as good as it fucking gets, is to have someone who's committed to coming back to the well, even when, you're not quite seeing each other, you don't quite hear each other, or you notice some patterning and you reflect it back. And I'm just appreciating you being willing to spar with me and stay with me and keep standing for being connected to me by being totally revealed and telling me what you see.
Yeah, I'm definitely committed to you, and I love you. And it's interesting too, because the relationships like yours in my life, like they did kind of come out of nowhere, but they also sustained kind of on their own, or in a way that I wasn't like expecting. The last thing I want to say is just that my Scorpio is like in my house of like divinity and God and faith.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And that is definitely being real. Like whatever up until this point, what I have held to, and I couldn't even name it, that like gave me confidence, or like my principles of like how the universe works or what I could trust, is totally annihilated.
Yeah. I got a lot of first house stuff of this, like, who am I and my belief systems and what do I want? A lot of that stuff is getting fucked with right now as well. And, actually one of the things about this guy is he's really interested in the consciousness stuff. He's really interested in like to me, by me, but all the woo, the crystals, like all the stuff, he's just like, no. And I know I said enough weird shit up front that he, if he wasn't at least a little available, he would be gone by now. But like, I went to a breathwork thing last week and got, what's it called? It's like when your hands and fingers, like your mouth and fingers and toes get all contorted because you're like throwing off so much
happened to you?
Yeah, the whole fucking time. And the breathwork facilitator was like, that's cool, push through it. And he's a paramedic, and he's like, what the fuck are you doing? He's like, why would you deprive yourself of nutrients? You need to have a balance of oxygen and CO2. He's like, what the fuck? Why the fuck would you do that? He's like, if people are doing that when I show up, they're about to die. It's a bad sign. Why would you do that to yourself on purpose? And I was reaching out to like George Ramsay and getting info and stuff, but there's a lot of stuff that he's like, hell no, what the fuck are you talking about? And there is a part of me that was like, kind of, because a big part of who I am, Jupiter in the first house conjoined Mars, like doing shit to expand. That's literally me, right? Doing shit to expand in a fucking intense way. Scorpio first house with like Mercury and Jupiter on my ascendant. And there is something about how he holds it all of just like kind of curious and interested, but it's not that big of a fucking deal. And we can just actually do life and have it be kind of straightforward and simple and like go out to dinner and have fun and stuff. That I could feel is almost X'd out in me, the importance of it all. And like the sanctity and this meaning, all of the stuff that I pull in that I think I can have these real egoic ties to and just really lusty ties to, all the things I'm really committed to. I totally know of the high sides, but I think there's a shadow there too. And I think the X'd out part is like, it's no big fucking deal. And it doesn't matter if anyone does this or doesn't do it. And you can do it and I can do it and it can just be my job. And then I don't have to think about it all day, every fucking day, healing all the time. He holds it that way. That is something I actually want to learn about. Like the no big dealness that he holds. I'm like, oh. And one of the interesting things last night, I was cleaning out these drawers. Co-pilot came with this beautiful wooden filing cabinet here. And I was just couldn't sleep and all fucked up. So I was cleaning. That's what I do, organizing shit. So I was going through all these papers, all these files, tax stuff, and getting rid of stuff and organizing stuff. There's not that much to organize in my house. It looks like no one lives here, but I found some places where I could organize. And it was like the first or maybe the second coaches weekend in my first year of coaches training. And we did a persona party and Diana put in an envelope, she sat over there with her little mischievous face, writing 2 X'd out personas and put them in the envelope with our names to challenge us to be one of those at a persona party and bring that up. And one of them was no big deal. None of it's a big deal. Literally not a single thing can be a big deal. And I was like, oh, that's funny.
Well, I definitely
6 years ago.
Intimacy, the more intimate and close to the heart or the soul that a relationship is, it's like a lot about the X'd out, you know? Like,
yeah, I can see it. Playfulness about like addiction and secrets in my family. Like he delivered some jokes almost immediately that were a pretty big fucking shift for me. He held some space and then like the moment that it was like not bad form, he made a joke and teased me about it. And I was like, oh, wow. Like I can just feel the X'd out stuff that I'm like, okay. Like, and then today I was like, oh, maybe this isn't the thing. And, you know, I talked to my therapist. She was kind of like, you know, he might just not be available for like the type and level of connection that you want. Like that might not be his thing. And, you know, she's like, this isn't a deal breaker, but like, it's good data. And I was kind of like, oh, maybe this isn't the thing. And then, you know, she's in the fucking field and she's interdimensional. And that was like, oh yeah, then I can go back to making everything a big fucking deal about healing again. Like I could feel that the shadow of that like reappear almost. Like, yeah, get rid of that guy who's like, doesn't take you so fucking seriously. Get him out of here so that you can just go back to being so self-important about all your healing work. I could feel that come right up. I felt it and I outed it in the session with her and she was giggling about it. But yeah, I don't think I'm all the way integrated on play, devotion to fucking play and devotion to no big deal. And those both feel pretty fun and well-timed for me to learn more about.
Definitely me too. Play. It's definitely a thing.
This dude just makes me laugh so hard. Like I laugh all the time. He's probably the funniest person I've ever met in my life.
And I don't know either, but it would be hard for me to believe that, like, I just feel like we can only ever meet our own availability is my theory. So then it's like, well, it's really like, do I want to get more available with you, you know? And like, and if you know, the longer that you would be in a relationship, the more that would mean like, okay, what about available to moving to the city or living in the same place or sharing finance? Like to what degree, you know?
Well, yeah. And every time I get in something and I get reactive or get scared about something, I'm doing my thing and I'm like, okay, I want him to be more available. I want him to say what he's feeling. I want him to, whatever the thing is, I want him to be more straight with me. I'm like, okay, get in there, Bethany.
Yeah.
Go be vulnerable. Go say your things. Go do your work. And Copilot's pretty good at calling me on any bullshit victims when he can hear it. Because I was like, well, I didn't even know, like, I wasn't even looking for something. And then he went all in, and then I caught feelings. And now he's backing away. And he's like, it's not his fault. He's like, I can hear you're trying to blame him for your feelings. He's like, no. And I was like, thank you. Thank you. So he's real good at calling me, like he can hear my stuff so fast, and he's so sweet and friendly about how he's telling me he sees that. But it's like, yeah, I'm like, hello, I need to have a phone call with you. It's like a video call. I have some things to say. And then I just do my thing. And every time I've done that so far, it's been in all different contexts, but it's usually some level of vulnerability, innocence, or taking responsibility coming up and saying more.
What I appreciate is it also each time it seems like you're getting clear, like, here's what I want. And I think if I think about the last couple relationships that we've talked about, it just wasn't like sometimes there can be an energy of like, well, this is what showed up. You know, and I'm just going with what showed up.
Well, it's like a princess, like, well, if he's available for that, then I'll do that. And if he does that, I'll do that. Rather than like, that's what I felt today was like, hey, not to be like, I'm not actually available or open or committed, or I'm going to ditch you. Like, it wasn't from that place, but it was like, I'm getting really clear that this is not what I want.
Yeah.
I'm not blaming you. I totally get why you might want to pull back or do this or not show me these parts of yourself or curtain off these areas and not show it to me, but that's not what I want to build in a relationship. This is what I really want to build in a relationship. Is that what you want to?
And you felt like what? He said yes?
Yeah. I don't think he knows all the way what that is and how it looks. And that's part of what, and he's like, basically he's like, can you teach me this stuff? Like, he's just like, I don't know. And then, but he shed a tear, and he was just like, I'm real good at running from stuff. Been running from stuff my whole life. And he's like, there's a tattoo on his leg that says, look to the distance. He feels like he had no discipline when he was a child. And I don't think he ever had to stick with anything hard. And he sees this in himself. And he said it to me up front. He said it early. He's like, I want to settle in. I want to find a woman. I want to like settle into a relationship long-term. Like, I haven't been creating that for myself. And I see my patterns, and this is what I want now. I don't think he knows how to get there, but he was just like, he's like, I know you're my medicine. He's like, I know this is good for me. He's like, but I don't like it. So yes. And he's opting into something that he doesn't know what it is yet. So, I'm just like, I want to be with you in this, and I can show you this stuff. I kind of know a lot about this stuff. So he was available. And then Parker, he's paramedic. Parker had some weird rash and stuff. I was taking a picture of it later in the night. I was like, are you available for some, because we talked for hours. We were on a video chat, I don't know, a couple hours or something earlier today. And Parker had some weird thing. He's like helped me get ticks out of Finn's head. He's been showing up with his paramedic skills all the time. But there was something on Parker, and I took pictures of it. I'm like, are you available for paramedic check-in or something? And he was like, yes, I'm not available for any more feeling of feelings or facing or whatever. He said something cute on text, like, no more of that, but I can do paramedic stuff. Yeah, sure. Let me see. Show me a picture. He called me right away. And I was like, yeah, are you full for the day? I said, or for the year, joking around, but he's in. And we clarified that we're not seeing other people, dating other people. We got tighter, real tight in that agreement, which we've been talking about that over the last couple of weeks. So yeah, I experienced him as getting in. And if I keep showing up, if I keep saying what I want and I keep taking responsibility and I keep going towards, every time that I've done that so far, he has come towards. And probably doesn't really know what he's getting into here. So but I think he's figuring it out.
Yeah.
When I saw the tear in his eye, I could really feel him.
Yeah, I used to say that. Like, I was like, I think that the best we can ever do is just keep choosing each other.
Yeah, I'm going to keep choosing him. And I'm going to keep choosing myself, which is what it feels different of like, because if I know today that if I was like, I want this, and I gave him like 5 outs, and he even answered kind of fast, and I was like, don't answer fast, sit with it, because he's fast. It's fucking Gemini fast. It's real fast all the time. And yeah, he doesn't want out. He wants in. But I know that if he was like, I don't know, or I don't think so, or I know I would be like, great, okay, blessings on your way, like let's stay in touch. But this isn't what I'm going to keep moving towards. And even I don't even have the opportunity to get clearer and clearer on what I want and express those without being in a relationship with somebody in this way, in some ways. So it's like, I keep doing it. Like we had a conversation a couple of weeks ago about exclusivity, and I felt all my stuff around like, I don't want to be needy. I want to be chill. I want to be open. I want to be relaxed. And I don't want to say, I feel scared. I don't know that I feel okay, having a sexual relationship with you if we're not monogamous. And I was very, very in a very young, like just total innocence, tears pouring. And, this is not that far into our relationship. And he held incredible space for it. He didn't back off where he was at in that moment. A few days later, he kind of turned on it and was like, in a different mindset. But I had a major shift just being able to speak from that place and have him really hold space for it. And he would be like, yeah, you're not crazy. That sounds so reasonable. I know what you mean. Like, and I was like, okay. I had a lot more openness around it so if I keep showing up the way I want him to show up, maybe I'll co-create more of that. Thanks for listening. We welcome your feedback. You can email us at healingcollectivepod@gmail.com. Our website is thehealingcollectivepodcast.com, @healingpodcast on Twitter, @healingcollectivepodcast on Instagram. Special thanks to Ethan Luck, who produces. You can find him @EthanLuck on all platforms.